Welcome to an exceptional edition of Rebellion's educational series. I'm here with Dr. Hugo Benedetti, who's a professor at the SA Business School in Chile. Dr. Benedetti, thank you so much for coming on today.
No, thank you so much for the invitation.
So your work spans the technological field in finance, but today I want to start off with these coins and tokens. Could Rebellion Research just issue a coin, call it Rebellion Coin, and can we say it's worth, what is it, is there a contract? How does this work?
So, well, I think it could. I mean, obviously the service you provide is very valuable. What's most interesting about tokens is that they have to be necessarily on a blockchain, and there has to be a reason for them to be in a blockchain. So if you're thinking about just using Rebellion token to purchase Rebellion services, well, there isn't really much of a need for you to have that token, because you could purchase your services through credit cards, wire transfers, so on and so forth. So there's really not a specific need for you to accept a Rebellion token. It's different if you were thinking about building a community that would be powered by this token, where the value of the token would increase as the value of the network of Rebellion increases.
Well, the dog coin that Elon Musk tweeted about.
Yes.
What is the purpose essence of that? Is that just for fun by a programmer, or is there something more?
Well, and here's the sort of a gray area in the cryptocurrency or crypto asset space, is that we don't have a clear taxonomy on what is a cryptocurrency, what's a utility token, what's a security token. So there's this gray area, and we try to differentiate them a little bit. So a cryptocurrency would be this blockchain asset that its sole purpose is to perform payments to people that are
XRP,
openly,
Ethereum,
willingly,
Bitcoin, etc.
Right. That where the end party is choosing freely to accept it. And that's different from a utility token, where the only means of payment within that platform is that token.
But is there any platform to Doggy? Do you know about Dogcoin specifically?
Yeah, or Dogecoin.
Dogecoin.
Yes. Yeah. So Dogecoin is just it's a fork of the Bitcoin blockchain. It has some minor modifications, just like any of the over 80 different forks that Bitcoin has had so far. But they're all cryptocurrencies. I mean, they don't serve a specific purpose other than transferring value and, of course, storing data on the blockchain if you choose to do so.
So you see initial coin offerings for companies that have a large ecosystem. And so instead of having their customers, push dollars, pesos, or ruble amongst each other, they can, use their coin. So for all the Facebook customers, they'll have their Facebook coin. And, maybe if people are buying paint from one another, Sherwin-Williams would have a paint coin, for instance. Can you give us more practical examples?
Yeah, so there goes the key difference, is that in order for this token to be extremely successful, there has to be a need for a blockchain. So if we're thinking about Facebook coin, not their current project, which is completely different from what we're talking about here, but if Facebook just decided to launch a cryptocurrency to use on their platform, well, there's not really much support for that, other than just to have their customers use something that's simpler to use than a bank
Whereas
account.
Libra is just a freestanding coin that they want to become circulated by the general public.
Right. And now it's called Diem. There was a rebranding after all the opposition from regulators all around the world. They did some tweaks to the project, rebranded as to help the customers forget about Libra and just start thinking about something else. But anyway, so going back to ICOs. So ICOs, initial coin offerings, were a big hit in the crypto ecosystem between 2017, 2018, and then died off, mostly due to regulatory uncertainty. The SEC starting prosecuting and going against token issuers, because some of these tokens were deemed to be, or could be deemed to be, securities, therefore had to be registered. And that completely dried up the market, and then evolved to something new that was called the IEO, which is initial exchange offering, where instead of just distributing broadly and advertising broadly to the public, where they could send cryptocurrencies or money to a specific address run by the issuer, in the initial exchange offering, what happened is an exchange became the offer or the platform where you could purchase these tokens. And that what we thought would happen is that this would provide some sort of signal of quality, where we assumed that exchanges would perform some sort of evaluation of the token before being listed. We're not sure yet if that was the case. There is no research yet, as far as I know, on the returns and the outcomes of initial exchange offerings. So I really can't comment much about that. What I can comment about is my research on ICOs, and what we found with my colleague Leonard Kostovetsky is that if we take the whole, I think we took about 3,600 different initial coin offerings, and we tracked them down to see whether they managed to raise the funds they wanted to raise, and after that, whether they got listed on an exchange or not. And what we found out is that less than half of the tokens actually raised the funds they were looking for. And after that, half of those that raised money eventually got listed on exchange. So if you think about like failure rate, and we call failure not being able to get listed on a crypto exchange, well, it's 75%. But if we talk in terms of value, well, it's not really that representative, because most of the projects that did not raise money, well, obviously no, since they didn't raise money, no investors got hurt in the process. And most of the ones that raised money but did not reach the total amount that they were looking for returned the money to the investors. So there was no harm done there. So even after considering all of these projects that did not list, we'll consider them to be 100% loss.
Well, what about the success rate of those that raise money? Do you have any information on that?
I'm going to get to that. If we look at the return from the ICO to the listing, even considering all those projects that got lost in the middle, the average return is still 80%. So considering all the scams, all the projects that did not raise money, and all the projects that did not list on an exchange, the return of the market is 80%.
I've got so many questions. First, how much effort does it take to do one of these offerings, to be one of the 3,600? Are we talking about 6 months of programming by a team? Is there, or are we talking really about just being an organization that can afford it? Or I mean, what is the prerequisite being able to do an offering?
I don't know about now, but in 2018, if you Googled ICO, you could probably download the code to create your own token. And to create it, you would just launch it in probably less than 15 minutes. So wow. That's regarding token creation. So having the tokens available to distribute would take you less than 15 minutes. Now, what we are concerned about is what's the project behind that token, right? And there you have, it goes from just launching as a crazy idea. My favorite one, it's a token called Boats and Bitches. And what the issuers wanted to have is they wanted to raise money to have a party on a boat. And what's surprising about this token is not only it raised over, I think it was over $300,000, but that token got listed on an exchange afterwards. So people were trading this token that all wanted to do was raise money for a party that already happened. But people were still willing to trade it because they were not doing any research behind it.
Rebellion is doing space research with deep learning on so many images to start trying to create maps. Could we raise money for that research?
Well, probably. I mean, people are willing to invest in tokens. Now the question is always is why do I need a token for that? So why is a token better than any of
Or
the
could one
other
day, if I'm
crowdfunding
considering,
alternatives for example?
doctor, if I want to IPO Rebellion Research one day, is there a viable alternative to creating a token just for the ownership of my company versus an IPO?
Well, so far we're not clear on what are the benefits of, because that token would be deemed a security. So you will still have to register. So we're not clear about the advantages of STOs or security token offerings over IPOs. There are some theories, but we don't have enough data to provide a definite answer. Because from the regulatory perspective, there is no difference, because what the token would represent would still be a security. So we'd still have to go through all the regulatory process.
And how do I find these 3,600 tokens that?
Oh, well, now we're over 10,000 tokens. So
wow.
This keeps growing by the minute. And there are over 300 exchanges worldwide, or 300 centralized exchanges, which are entities that run a crypto exchange where you can buy and sell these tokens. And we also have decentralized exchanges, which are run by code, where you can trade any token that it's compatible with the code that's run by the decentralized exchange. So for instance, a decentralized exchange that runs on Ethereum, you can list any token that's been launched on the Ethereum blockchain. Too much information, maybe.
No, if you launch if you launch a new coin, let's say we decide to launch Rebellion coin and we use Ethereum blockchain, they will let us be on their exchange.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, they don't need to let you. This is one of the beauties of these decentralized exchanges, is that it's just a protocol that allows you to trade within any other user. So you will just, think about it as an API where you're just gonna plug in your token and say, I am willing to sell my Rebellion coin for 0.01 ETH. If you send me ETH, I'll send you Rebellion token.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh,
and you can do that. And if it's not a security, I mean, if there's nothing, if you're not, well, there are some, this is overly simplifying, but if you're not promising anything to your investors or the people that want to buy the Rebellion token, let's say you want it to be a donation, and say, I want to get funds to improve satellite imaging and collect satellite imaging and build better mapping. Give me money, and I'll send you a token, and the token it's going to just be a token of appreciation with my signature on it, and you can trade it afterwards if you want. Well, that's not a security. So
why do you think Bitcoin has found the value it has? And do you think it's worth more or less?
So it's difficult to say, or at least for me to say, what is the real value of Bitcoin. We have a market value, which currently, I don't know if today it's little below 50 or little above $50,000.
Do you expect society to continually make it easier to accept payment in Bitcoin?
I think in cryptocurrencies. So we don't really know, or I don't know, which would be the leading cryptocurrency in the future. But I do see cryptocurrencies filling a gap, which banks have not been able to fill. I mean, there is a need for an international currency that can be freely accessible, freely transferable, and uncensorable. So to me, the key benefit of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general is allowing people in countries that, for instance, or just people that don't want to use banks for any kind of reason. Now, we have some pretty specific reasons. There are countries with hyperinflation, or there's a very high risk of governments taking over banks or freezing deposits, freezing all bank accounts, and then just depreciation the currency. People don't want to put money in their banks, so they need a place to save it. They can't save it in bills.
This is a wonderful point you make. Yeah. Crypto and coins offer a place to store wealth where if you're society turns on you and you become a social society like a Venezuela and they want to take your wealth, they can't.
Yes, and I always forget to bring my $300 billion Zimbabwe bill that I got. Is just I mean, people in the developed countries, it's hard for them to grasp what it means to have hyperinflation, like to have
and the
all your
US
life
dollar is
savings.
not as accessible.
Yeah,
For many
well,
people. Sorry.
no, absolutely. And when a country, or usually when a country starts going through an hyperinflation phase, it's usually ruled by the government or created by the government. And one of the first things government does is freeze all capital outflows. So you will not be able to buy any foreign currency in that country in order for the government to control currency. So all of your savings in dollars are going to be taken away. I mean, we saw it in Argentina, we've seen it in Venezuela, we've seen it in Zimbabwe, we've seen it in Greece.
Even in China, you're restricted from what cash you can take outside of the country.
Yeah. So I believe it's in the best interest of society in general to have this new way to store wealth and to process payments. Now, this might go against what some governments want at some period of time, but I think it's for the better good of all society. And going back to Bitcoin is, I don't know if Bitcoin's going to be the key currency. The main benefit of Bitcoin, it's its network. I mean, it has the largest user base and it has the largest recognition, and there is so much invested capital already.
That's a great point.
It's the miners.
It has the leading candidate to it, so it's got that. What about your neighbor, Argentina? Their currency has gotten so obliterated the last 10 to 15 years. I had such a lovely trip to Buenos Aires more than a decade ago. Do you see any turnaround for the Argentinian dollar, or I mean, do you see any turnaround for any of your neighbors' dollars, real?
Well, these are long processes. I mean, Argentina has gone through decades already of negative growth and not hyperinflation, but inflation. They still have capital controls through various means. So, for instance, if you're a Argentinian, you have a Argentinian bank account and you travel abroad and you use your credit card, you're gonna pay an extra 30% tax on your international purchases. So there's a high incentive for you not to travel and spend money abroad.
What about using your crypto to spend? Will you get taxed on that? How does that work?
I don't know about the tax laws. I'm guessing it depends on whether you declare them or not.
Of course. No. Very good point. In South America, your currencies have always been such an issue, and I can see crypto being especially appealing to South America.
Absolutely, and that's why the largest users, the largest percentage of users of cryptocurrencies are in Argentina and Venezuela, because those are subject to more, I would say, inflationary pressures or risk of government intervention on banks than any other country. Now, the good thing is that we have incredible projects and incredible developers on blockchain technology coming from Argentina. So at the end, it's been a very good thing for the ecosystem, because Argentina has the lead on many of these projects.
This has been a great talk. My last question: what industry do you see leading the way for embracing blockchain?
Banking. I mean, we see large banking and financial institutions being invested in blockchain technology, even though they don't disclose it publicly. Some of them have been disclosing it more recently. So, for instance, JP Morgan with JP Morgan Coin, with the Project Quorum. I mean, Fidelity. We have State Street, Morgan Stanley, all the big players. I mean, Goldman Sachs, not Morgan Stanley. All the big players are already invested in this technology because they see the benefit and they see the risk of not accepting it, of not being in the forefront of innovation. So to me, it's financial institutions by far.
Dr. Benedetti, this was fantastic. You stay safe during these crazy times.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Pleasure's ours.